Da-da-da-da-da. Uh-oh. Know what I need to do. Hello, everybody. Hope y'all are doing well today. My name is Rebecca. If you don't remember who I am or you're new here, I have put up Earthquake 3D, and I'm watching the earthquakes as they come in. You will notice that they will change as they come in here. Our latest earthquakes have been a 1.0 and a 2.8 in Western Turkey, a 3.2 South Island of New Zealand, a 1.8 Spain, 2.5 Central Turkey, a 3.1 Leyte, Philippines, a 3.2 Java, Indonesia, and a 2.2 Western Turkey. Good morning, Ridgequake. Hope you're doing well. First, I want to say a big thank you, a shout out to someone who subscribes to my channel for having helped me with part of my car payment this morning. I really appreciate you. I am not going to throw names out there. However, this person, I am giving them a big thank you because I have been able to pay off half of what's owed on the car. If anybody else would like to help, I do still have a PayPal and I have a Cash App. I am very appreciative of any and all help I get and help towards my granddaughter for Christmas, as I am doing everything on my own this year. And as many of y'all know, I am disabled, so any and every bit that I get helps me out a long way. So I appreciate all of y'all. Also, I am $10 away on YouTube from getting my next payment. Woohoo! So, that is crazy because the only thing that I've been monetizing so far is some of my live streams and some of the songs. When it comes down to big earthquakes, I don't monetize on those. And there's a reason for that. People get injured and hurt during those big earthquakes, and I do not want to make any income off of that. So I do not monetize for the big earthquakes that happen. Mostly it's for my little live updates and for fun videos and things like that. All right, so Richquake says, hope everybody is doing well today. I hope everybody's doing well today too. I was out and about this morning. It is 50 degrees here, so it's great weather. Good morning, the Fuzzy Falcon. How are you? It is great weather here this morning. It is blue skies outside. Not really blue, but a light blue. And no snow, as far as I can tell. I've been checking to see. Oops, that is not what I wanted to do. Let me close that. Let me open that again. X off that. I've been checking the weather because I'm wishing for a white Christmas. However, as far as I can tell, they keep changing it on the 28th and 29th from snow to just rain. But on the 24th, you guys, on the 24th, there might be snow. Look. Okay, so let me show y'all. On the 24th, fingers crossed, I see snowflakes. So we're hoping for some snow for Christmas. You know, Santa needs snow for his sleigh, right? So, yeah. So that's what's happening there. I'm hoping for some snow. But the rest of the month looks like it's pretty much rain. The 24th, snow, rain. 25th, rain. 26th, rain. And then our weather is going to be down in the 50s. And at night, the lowest that I'm seeing for this month so far is going to be 29 degrees on the 6th. No, I take that back. 18 degrees on the 14th. So it'll be 49 on the 14th, 48 degrees, and then 18 degrees at night. And then 20 on the 15th, it'll be 25 degrees at night. But I am hoping for snow, just a little bit, even if it's a dusting, you know, so it can feel magical. But, you know, looking at Richquake where he's at, I think he's going to have more chance of snow than I am. The Fuzzy Falcon says, I'm alive, you? Yep, I'm alive. I am doing good this morning. I had weird dreams last night. I mean, like, really weird dreams. You know, like, it's funny when you're, like, dreaming about past events. and things that have happened in your life. It's weird, right? So I was dreaming last night of past events, like ones that were traumatic. And woke up this morning and I felt a little bit off because of that. But, you know, in everything there is a learning lesson. And I don't know, maybe I was supposed to dream that so I could deal with it. And I woke up this morning, felt a little off, but felt better. Also, I've been fighting with my insurance company and medicine, and finally got that fixed. Thank God. Human resonance giving you dreams. Might be. But you know what the bad thing is? I wanted to see the Northern Lights, and I haven't been able to see any because the sky here has been so gray. So cloudy, overcast, so I haven't been able to see the Northern Lights. I'm hoping other people have, but I haven't. So what else? But I want to say thank you. And that's a thank you to the person who has helped me out with getting part of what's on my car paid off. That is so appreciated. I mean, you guys have no idea. It's like when you look and you see that half of it's wiped out. That is tremendous, and it is very, very much appreciated. So yeah, last night I was hanging out with Rich Craig and Broke on their channel for a while, but I got sick last night, so I ended up having to cut out early. But we were having a blast, and one of the things you'll find out is we like to pick on each other. So we like having fun and picking on each other. So how are you all doing today? Rich Quake, you have snow now? The Fuzzy Falcon. I know you're out, in the west, right? You got snow out there? Okay, so let me check in on news here. See what we got for news. You know, they've got evidence of a recovered alien craft. Wonder if that fits in science, but military officials are speaking out about it. Military insiders have come forward claiming the recovery of non-human technology. Ooh, that could be interesting, right? Okay, they have a fresh captured image of 3IA Atlas, and NASA's Maven suffered an anomaly. Suffers anomaly and is no longer communicating with Earth. NASA's Mars Atmosphere and Volatile Evolution, or Maven, orbiter is no longer communicating with Earth after an unknown anomaly put it out of contact with NASA's Deep Space Network. In November 2013, which is a while ago, San Francisco Bay, California, 2.4. Okay, so NASA's Maven spacecraft launched into space beginning its long journey in 2013. In September 2014, it entered Mars orbit and began its mission to study the planet's upper atmosphere, ionosphere, and the interactions the atmosphere has with the solar wind, leading to its escape of the Martian atmosphere. For over a decade, it has taken measurements of the Martian atmosphere and relayed those findings to Earth via Deep Space Network, NASA's international array of giant radio antennas that communicates with interplanetary missions. This year, the spacecraft detected the first direct signs of sputtering, in which atoms are knocked out of the top of the planet's atmosphere by energetic charged particles. The combination of data from these instruments allowed scientists to make a new kind of map of sputtered argon in relation to the solar wind. This map revealed the presence of argon at high altitudes in the exact locations that the energetic particles crashed into the atmosphere and splashed out argon, showing sputtering in real time. The researchers also found that this process is happening at rate 4 times higher than previously predicted, and that this rate increases during solar storms. The direct observation of the sputtering confirms that the process was a primary source of atmospheric loss in Mars' early history when the sun's activity was much stronger. It has been a successful little orbiter, even capturing an image of interstellar comet 3IA Atlas earlier this year, and operating beyond its initial mission and end date of 2022. Excuse me. The MAVEN team has a strong record of innovation in addressing engineering challenges to extend the mission and add capability. MAVEN's project manager, Rich Burns at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, said in a statement that the mission was extended in 2022. This year's extended mission brings new opportunities and challenges, and they are confident that the team will once again rise to the occasion, enabling much more fantastic MAVEN science. That extension took the spacecraft until September 2025, but after that, MAVEN was still going. Now it is unclear what happened with the orbiter after NASA's ground stations lost contact with it on December 6. Telemetry from MAVEN had showed all subsystems working normally before it orbited behind the red planet. After the spacecraft emerged from behind Mars, NASA's Deep Space Network did not observe a signal. The spacecraft and operations team are investigating the anomaly to address the situation. As well as capturing data on the Martian atmosphere, the orbiter is used to relay signals from rovers Curiosity and Perseverance on the planet's surface. However, there are several other orbiters like the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter that do the same task, so NASA will not be too worried by this aspect. Loss of communication is not unheard of with interplanetary and deep space probes, and NASA does have a tendency to find ways to fix the problem and reestablish contact. In 2023, the U.S. Space Agency lost contact with Voyager 2 before resuming contact just a few days later. Hopefully NASA will be able to do the same with MAVEN. For now, they say that they will share more information as and when it becomes available. So that is interesting. I always enjoy listening to stuff about NASA. Whether I believe it or not that we actually made it to the moon and had cameras outside of the spacecraft is another story. My opinion is I don't think that we did, but, I just wonder. Oh, you did a Christmas song? That's cool. I have to do it on a different live stream because this one I'm not doing music on. I will have a stream for Christmas, and then I will play all Christmas songs on that night. And hopefully I will have you and Broke on panel with me. But on this live stream here, I am not doing, music on this live stream. Okay, so what else I got here? Okay, so apparently the Powerball is at $1 billion, you guys. That would be fun to win that, but I think my luck is not lucky, so I don't think that I would win that. If I did, there would be signs. Wow, you guys, an engineer has claimed that he has found the Garden of Eden and has mapped the exact spot. The hunt for the Garden of Eden has usually belonged to theologians and dreamers, not software coders. Yet a computer engineer now claims he has pinpointed the biblical paradise on a modern map, arguing that the specific landscape, rivers, and even a pyramid align with the ancient description of Eden more closely than any rival theory. His work has ignited a fresh round of debate over whether the story in Genesis reflects a real place that can be located or a symbolic origin myth that resists GPS coordinates. Well, we all know, I believe, that it's real and it is protected by angels, so nothing is going to get in there even if they were able to find it. At the center of the controversy is a bold assertion that Eden was a physical garden tied to identifiable rivers and landmarks, and that its tree of life once stood where a world-famous monument now rises. The engineers' map simulations and textual cross-references are drawing both fascination and skepticism, as scholars weigh whether a modern algorithm can solve a mystery that has eluded centuries of traditional exegesis. Any claim to have found Eden has to wrestle first with the text itself. Genesis describes a garden planted by God, watered by a single river that splits into 4 named streams, a detail that has long tempted readers to treat the story as a veiled geography lesson rather than pure allegory. The narrative's blend of specific rivers, names, and mythic elements, including the tree of life and a talking serpent, has left generations of researchers divided over whether they are dealing with a stylized map or a theological parable. Modern discussions often start with the Fertile Crescent, the arc of early civilization that stretches through Mesopotamia and present-day Iraq, because 2 of Genesis' rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, clearly belong there. Some scientists have argued that the other 2 rivers, Pishon and Gihon, might correspond with the now vanished channels or to distant waterways that fed ancient trade routes, while others see them as literary devices that complete a symbolic 4-fold pattern. The ambiguity has left the field wide open for new proposals that try to reconcile the text with satellite imagery, hydrology, and archaeology. For much of the 20th century, the dominant scholarly instinct was to place Eden somewhere near the confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates, treating the garden as a poetic memory of early life in southern Mesopotamia. That view fit neatly with the rise of cities like Uruk and Ur, and with the idea that Genesis preserved echoes of older Mesopotamian myths. Yet the more researchers learned about shifting river courses and ancient climate, the harder it became to match the 4-fold river system in Genesis to any single spot in Iraq with confidence. In recent years, a new wave of theories has pushed the search west and east at once. One scientist has argued that the Pishon might be linked to the Indus River, effectively stretching Eden's footprint from Mesopotamia towards South Asia, while still anchoring the Tigris and Euphrates in their familiar basin. Others have suggested that the Gihon could correspond to the Nile tributary, nudging the conversation towards the northeast Africa and raising the possibility that the biblical authors were blending multiple regional geographies into a single origin story. So, this was where Dr. Kostanin entered the picture. Into this contested landscape stepped Dr. Kostanin Borisov, a computer engineer who has turned his technical skills towards one of the Bible's oldest riddles. Rather than treating Eden as a purely theological construct, Borisov has approached it as a problem in pattern recognition, feeding textual clues, river data, and topographic models into the digital framework. His work, which he represents as a systematic attempt to match Genesis' description of the real-world terrain, has quickly drawn attention because it comes from outside the usual circle of biblical scholars. According to the report on his network, Dr. Borisov's research points to Egypt as the true site of the Garden of Eden, arguing that the Nile and its branches can be reconciled with the biblical river system more convincingly than the shifting channels of the Mesopotamia. He frames his proposal as a data-driven alternative to older, more speculative maps, positioning himself as computer specialist who can bring algorithmic rigor to a question usually dominated by philosophy and archaeology. So why are Egypt and Giza at the heart of the chain? The most striking element of Borisov's proposal is his insistence that Eden belongs not in Iraq but in Egypt. He argues that the Nile's branching pattern, combined with ancient descriptions of surrounding lands, fits the Genesis template of a single river dividing into 4 heads more naturally than the Tigris-Euphrates system. In his view, the broader landscape of Egypt, with its fertile floodplains and desert boundaries, offer a compelling backdrop for the garden described as both lush and bounded. Within that Egyptian frame, Borisov zeroes in on Giza as the focal point of his map. He proposes that the Great Pyramid of Giza occupies the very spot where the Tree of Life once stood, effectively recasting the monument as a stone marker of lost paradise. By tying the Garden of Eden to Giza, he links one of the world's most visited archaeological sites to one of his most enduring religious stories, a move that dramatically raises the stakes of his cartographic claim. The Great Pyramid as the Bible's Tree of Life. 1 second, you guys. I need to get a drink here. So, at the core of Borisov's argument is a provocative indication the Great Pyramid of Giza as a biblical tree of life. He suggests that the monument's central position on the plateau, its geometric precision, and its long history as a symbol of cosmic order echoes the role of the tree of Genesis as the axis of divine presence and immortality. In his reading, the pyramid is not just an ancient tomb, but a stone successor to a sacred tree that was once anchored the garden of the world's center. Reports on his work note that Borisov's theory suggests that the Great Pyramid of Giza is where the Tree of Life once stood, and that the Pyramid of Giza can be read as a monumental replacement for that original living symbol. A separate analysis describes how a new study calls Pyramid the Bible's Tree of Life, emphasizing how the structure's alignment and proportions have been reinterpreted. Ooh, what we got? We have a 4.4. Let's see where that's at. Nope, that's a 2.3. There's the 4.4. So the 4.4 is here. Okay, so a separate analysis describes a new study called the Pyramid of the Bible's Tree of Life, emphasizing how the structure's alignment and proportions have been reinterpreted through a biblical lens. By fusing Egyptology with Genesis, Borisov invites readers to imagine the pyramid not only as a wonder of engineering, but as a theological waypoint. Any Eden theory stands or falls on how it handles the four rivers that flow from the garden, and Borisov devotes significant attention to this puzzle. He argues that the Nile and its branches can be mapped into the biblical names in a way that preserves both the text's internal logic and the known geography of Northeast Africa and Near East. In his reconstruction, the river that went out of Eden corresponds to a primary Nile channel, where the four heads reflect the combination of real tributaries and ancient conceptions of a world-encircling stream. One report on his work notes that a new study by Dr. Borisov incorporates a mythical river called Oceanus into the model, suggesting that ancient writers may have blended observed waterways with cosmological ocean that encircle the earth. By invoking Oceanus, he acknowledges that Genesis' description is not a straightforward travelogue, but a hybrid of geology and myth. His simulations attempt to show how a worldview could still be anchored in a real landscape, with the Nile system providing a physical skeleton for a story clothed in symbolic language. So you know what's interesting about this is under the pyramids of Giza, there is water. So I wonder if the rivers run underneath the pyramid. Because in all the Southern California is just had a 2.3. In all of the things that I've read so far, they have found water in the lower chambers of the pyramid, which would mean that there had to have been water there. And then when they talk about the giant sphinx, they say that it was water eroded, but that it is older than the pyramids themselves. So it is interesting to think about these things. So there is flooding going on in Washington State right now. Wanted to catch up on that. So there are water rescues and evacuations in Washington as the rivers rise towards historical levels. What's going on right now is there is relentless rain. Heavy rain from an atmospheric river is pounding parts of Washington and creating potentially catastrophic flooding that is forcing weather rescues by some helicopters. Evacuations are underway. As many as 100,000 people in Washington face potential evacuations as the flood danger rises. Many are in Skagit County, where an entire 100-year floodplain has been ordered to evacuate. Several rivers in Washington hit major flood stage, the most severe level, as more than 10 inches of rain drained into the waterways. Some are still rising and threatening record levels. So that is what's going on with that. Let me see here, give you some more information. Governor Ferguson has declared a statewide emergency, warning that lives will be at stake in the coming days. Ferguson has said he's requested an expedited emergency declaration from the federal government to unlock urgently needed funding and resource for his state. He stated, "I want to encourage all Washingtonians to listen carefully to alerts from your county and emergency management departments. If you receive an evacuation order, please follow that order. It is critical for your safety." The Skagit, Sauk, Skykomish, Cowlitz, Puyallup, Carbon, Grays, Yakima, Snohomish rivers in Washington state are among those rapidly swelling and posing a serious threat to people living in the surrounding floodplains. Skagit is forecast for record-setting crests in parts of the early hours of Thursday morning. Level 3 evacuation orders means leave immediately and seek higher grounds are in place for some areas, including anyone living within the 100-year floodplain of Skagit County and parts of Orting and Pierce County. Check your local emergency authorities to see if your area is affected too. There are record-breaking river water levels across Washington state as a strong atmospheric river pummeled the Pacific Northwest with extreme rainfall. NOAA, National Water Center's Director Ed Clark, warned that rivers could remain flooded for days. As of Wednesday around noon Eastern Time, 18 rivers points were projected to reach major flood level in Washington. More than 17,000 customers in Washington had lost electricity by Wednesday night, according to Power Outage US.us. Let me see here. Okay, so airports, neighborhoods at risk for river levels keep rising. The Weather Channel meteorologist Justin Michaels shared footage of a rapidly rising Cedar River in Renton, Washington. I believe that's up there by Seattle, Washington, on Thursday, as he warned that neighborhoods and airports could be at risk if it bursts its banks. The river is rising fast, nearing major flood stage, he posted. Riverfronts, neighborhoods, parks, and even Renton Airport are at risk if water keeps climbing. Stay alert and avoid flooded roads. Let me see here. I'm going to pull up Google Earth and see where Renton is. So we're going to pull up Renton, Washington. So I believe it's up here. Yeah, it's up by Seattle. So this is Renton. Where's Seattle? Renton. This is Olympia. Bremerton. Yeah, Seattle's right here. So Renton is just below Seattle. There's been a catastrophic flooding alert issued across Washington rivers. The National Weather Center has issued an updated key message for the ongoing catastrophic flooding impacts this week for Washington. You can check that out at water.noaa.gov, and that'll give you more information. A Washington farmer says he's never seen flooding like this. Washington farmer Ryan Lechneger, who lives outside Falls City near the Swaukee River, told Seattle that he'd lived through countless floods before, but ones affecting the state this week are unheard of. He said he's seen many floods come and go, but has never seen water come in and out of the barn like this. It's really devastating to have a flooding event like this happen before Christmas time. We have lost quite a bit. Washington rivers, including Snoqualmie, are forecast to hit record high crest today as heavy rainfall continues along the Pacific Northwest. Western Skagit County and northwestern Snohomish County are under a flash flood watch through late Friday night as the National Weather Service warns of potential failure of levees and dikes along the Skagit River. Heavy rainfall has already driven the river into extreme flooding, and water levels are forecast to rise high enough to exceed the height and pressure limits of the flood control structures of Sedro-Woolley to the river's mouth. Communities including Burlington, Mount Vernon, LaConner, Edison, Conway, and Stanwood face the possibility of sudden, fast-moving inundation if any section of the system fails. Officials warn that a levee breach could lead to extensive flooding of streets, farmland, homes, and businesses with little time for residents to react. Emergency managers urge communities to monitor alerts closely, review evacuation plans, and be prepared to act immediately if the watch is upgraded to a flash flood warning. The National Weather Service continues to track conditions and will issue updates as the situation evolves. There is also a flood watch in Montana. Northwest Montana is experiencing widespread flooding due to heavy rainfall and snowmelt, prompting multiple flood warnings from the National Weather Service in Missoula. Sanders County is seeing small stream flooding, with Highway 56 near Bull Lake closed due to water on the ground. Lincoln County is facing more severe impacts as rivers and streams swollen by both rain and melting snow have already inundated areas around Libby. Hang on a second. Troy, Yak, and Yacht. Y-A-K-T. In addition, the Fisher River near Libby is expected to rise above flood stage late Thursday evening, affecting low-lying areas and roads along the river. Residents are urged to avoid flooding roads and follow safety guidelines. Further east, northern Idaho is seeing minor flooding along the St. Joe River at Calder and Coeur d'Alene River at Cataldo, where rising waters are expected to flood low spots, farmland, and campgrounds. In Washington, rivers including the Stehekin and Wenatchee are also under flood warnings, with flooding affecting low-lying homes, roads, and rivers adjacent areas to Chelan County. Across the region, officials emphasize turn around, don't drown warnings that vehicles are especially vulnerable in flood conditions. Communities are urged to monitor forecasts closely and take immediate precautions if flooding worsens. So, Western Washington is grappling with widespread flooding as a series of strong storm systems continue to drive several rivers above flood stage. The National Weather Service in Seattle has extended warnings across King, Thurston, and Snohomish counties, where some waterways are approaching near record levels. Officials emphasize that greatest dangers come from fast, unseen currents and warn drivers not to attempt crossing flooded roads, especially overnight when hazards are harder to detect. King County is facing the most significant impacts, with flooding along the Tolt and Snoqualmie rivers. The Tolt River above Carnation has exceeded minor flood levels, affecting Tolt River Road northeast and leaving some homes in San Souci area potentially inaccessible. More severe conditions are unfolding along both the upper and lower Snoqualmie River, where major flooding is occurring from Snoqualmie Falls downstream through Falls City and Carnation. River flows have surged well above flood threshold, with forecasts calling for crests near or above historic highs before waters slowly begin receding late tonight into Friday. Further south, the Squamichuk River is causing moderate flooding around Bakota in Thurston County, while to the north, Snohomish County is continuing with major flooding along the Skyhomish River near Gold Bar. Both rivers have overtopped their banks, affecting residential areas, farmland, and roadways, though gradual declines are expected through Friday and into the weekend. Emergency officials across the region continue to urge residents to keep clear of the riverbanks, avoid flood areas, and move to higher ground if waters begin to rise. At least 8 Washington rivers and creeks have major flooding. That's the Skagit River at Concrete, Washington. That river is expected to crest above its record level at 42.2 feet late Thursday morning. It is already more than 6 feet above the major flood stage. Skagit River at Mount Vernon. The river could also break its record flood level of 37.4 feet by more than 2 feet by Friday. Snohomish River at Monroe. It is already more than 3 feet above major flood stage on Thursday morning. It is expected to crest at around its record level of 25.3 feet later today. Snohomish River at Snohomish. The river again is 3 feet above major flooding levels and will reach its record levels later today. Nooksack River at North Cedarville. The river is already almost at its previous flood record of 150.35 feet set in November 2021. So that's what I have for you as the latest updates for the atmospheric river and flooding that is going on in Washington State. I believe there may also be some flooding going on in Oregon, and let me check. That was the last that I heard. So let me check. All right, so Oregon coast is flooding and closed roads, causing havoc as the rain continues. And that was yesterday. So wait, yeah, that was 2 days ago. There was flooding in Oregon. Let me see if I got anything updated. Oregon coast was grappling with the aftermath of an atmospheric river, so they had flooding as well. But right now what's going on is in Washington State. So it's a good time to have an emergency weather radio if you don't have one. George Mitchell says, be safe out there, y'all, for those in Washington State. Yes, we need to be careful. I actually lived in Tacoma, Washington, and Fort Lewis. And I don't remember flooding there. I remember snow. But this is the first time I'm hearing about flooding. And you got Renton, which is up there by Seattle. So let me show you again. This is the Renton area, which is flooding here. And then you've got Seattle within the same area. That's Renton. So you got Renton and Seattle. Let me back up. There's Seattle right here. This is Seattle. Seattle's beautiful if you ever go to Seattle. But this is Renton here, and this because these lakes here come in, and they are causing flooding. And you also have rivers over here, so I would be careful if I lived in any part of this area, especially if you live near lakes or water. What else do I have? So the flood alert that's going on right now is for King, Washington, Skagit, Washington, Snohomish, Washington, and Whatcom, Washington. There has been evacuations ordered in parts of Washington amid the threat of catastrophic flooding. Record flooding is possible at Skagit River, among others. Up to 100,000 people in Washington State could be ordered to evacuate amid a threat of catastrophic flooding from an atmospheric river event. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson, who announced a state of emergency on Wednesday, pleaded with residents to follow evacuation orders and warned on social media catastrophic flooding is likely. In Skagit County, north of Seattle, officials called for evacuations amid the major flooding, saying residents within the FEMA 100-year floodplain need to evacuate to high ground immediately. Multiple rivers are at major flood stage Thursday morning, and more are expected to grow into major flood stage later today. Record flooding is possible on Thursday and Friday at the Skagit River near Concrete and near Mount Vernon. So let's put Concrete, Washington in so we can see that area too. And then we'll look for Mount Vernon. So concrete. Well, I did that wrong, but here it goes. Okay, so concrete is up here. So this is concrete. Then you notice we got other rivers up through here. So here's the river here. This is the Skagit River that goes through this way. Where is Mount Vernon? Let me see. Van Horn. Where's Mount Vernon? I'm looking for Mount Vernon. It's probably close and I'm just missing it. I did this wrong. Mount Verbob. Ha! I did that wrong. Mount Vernon, Washington. So I was right. Mount Vernon's right here. This is concrete here, and Mount Vernon is over here. Okay, so record flooding is possible on Thursday and Friday near the Skagit River, near concrete, and near Mount Vernon. The Snoqualmie River at Snoqualmie Falls, the Cedar River at Renton, and the Snohomish River at Snoqualmie and Monroe. Washington Senator Maria Cantwell said on social media she was alarmed to hear that the Skagit River could peak as high as 5 feet above its record crest level. Please, please, please stay alert and follow evacuation orders, she said. This is not just another flood. Roads are flooded and closed across North Bend, a city about 30 miles east of Seattle, and mudslides have closed parts of Interstate 90. Eastside Fire and Rescue, which services parts of King County just east of Seattle, started conducting water rescues on Wednesday. 3 adults and a dog were rescued after their home flooded, and 2 adults and a child were rescued in another incident. Eastside Fire and Rescue released a video of the moment 2 divers were rescued by helicopter Wednesday night. After the drivers were caught in the floodwaters, they were forced to flee to higher ground, with one person climbing to the top of their car and the other seeking safety in a tree, officials said. Stay home and don't travel unless necessary, the sheriff's office urged on Friday. Let me see if I can give y'all this. I'll give y'all a link and you can watch that video. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Here's the video. Here's the video that you can watch. It's on X. That is the video of the rescue that took place by helicopter. The flooding was sparked by an atmospheric river event that dumped more than 1 foot of rain at higher elevations of western Washington state over the last 3 days. The heavy rain is continuing Thursday morning and will weaken throughout the day. That is always good news. Let me see here. Okay, there's major highways that are closed, evacuations, flood watch underway amid state emergency. Western Washington is under a state of emergency after back-to-back atmospheric rivers brought torrential rain that has caused rivers to overflow. And sparked evacuations, mudslides, and water rescues. Hang on one second. Let's put this down here. Multiple rivers are at or forecast to reach major flood stage, and in some cases, including the Skagit and Snohomish rivers, the flooding would likely be historic. The National Weather Service said catastrophic and potentially life-threatening river flooding and widespread urban flooding are expected through Thursday afternoon. Governor Bob Ferguson activated the National Guard to assist with flooding. About 300 service members will be staged and ready to respond. As many as 100,000 residents could be forced to evacuate when rivers reach historic levels. Over the next few days, swiftwater teams have rescued, over the past few days, have rescued numerous people trapped by floodwaters. Residents are urged to sign up for emergency alerts. Level 3 Go Now evacuations have occurred in Skagit County for residents living within 100-year floodplain, and concrete due to historic flooding on the Skagit and Salt rivers. Sumas and Whatcom County, Mount Vernon, and others. Residents in downtown Snoqualmie were advised to leave the downtown district as soon as possible as the 7:45 a.m. 12 roads were closed. They asked people to be prepared, be at a ready state right now, have your bags packed. Dozens of areas are closed along the major highways. Eastbound Interstate 90 is closed at Snoqualmie and North Bend for a mudslide. Both directions of State Route 18 are closed at I-90 and Issaquah-Hobart Road for mudslides. Both directions of US 2 are closed from Index over Stevens Pass to Coles Corner due to slides and flooding. Both directions of State Route 20 closed at Marble Mount due to water on the road between Conrad Road and Cascade Road. So those are the roads that are closed at this time. Okay, so that's the news that I have for you on the flooding that is going on in Washington State. If you are living in those areas, please listen carefully to the warnings that are given. If you are told to evacuate, do so immediately. All right, so George Mitchell says south of Burlington. All right, so give me 1 second. Eh. Okay, so if you're just coming into the chat room, scroll back so you can hear the update and know what is going on in Washington State. Please share that out to people. That is as much information as I can give, but I want people to be safe. Okay, so what else I got for you? There is a deadly super flu which is forcing closures and triggering pandemic fears, just so people know. A rapid spreading strain of deadly influenza has now widely referred to as the super flu. Since when have we not heard of the flu? Think about it, when COVID was going on, the flu disappeared. Now the flu is back. Is prompting school closures, new hospital restrictions, and raising pandemic concerns as infection rates climb across multiple states. The superflu virus, identified as severe H3N2 variant, has already hit regions of Michigan, Missouri, and the Midwest especially hard. Local medical systems are becoming overwhelmed and sparking comparisons to early COVID-19 outbreak conditions. Multiple school districts have already shuttered classrooms for deep cleaning or due to staff shortages caused by widespread superflu illnesses. Parents on several affected communities reported being notified with little warning as schools struggling to maintain enough teachers, bus drivers, and support staff to keep the doors open. The superflu school closures marked the largest wave of flu-related education shutdowns since the 2020 pandemic. Hospitals across states struggling to deal with superflu patients have reinstated COVID-19 era visitor restrictions, citing higher than usual rates of severe complications. Some hospitals have once again forced masking up by staff and visitors. A growing number of Americans are donning masks again voluntarily in response to the superflu surge. Although federal health officials have not issued nationwide advisories, local health departments are urging caution, hand hygiene, and staying home when experiencing superflu symptoms. Health experts warn that the H3N2 strain now circulating appears to be producing more intense symptoms than typical seasonal flu. According to Dr. Arnold Monto, a prominent influenza researcher at the University of Michigan, this is not a normal flu year. What we are seeing are unusually severe symptoms, rapid spread, and concerning rate of hospitalizations among both children and older adults. Public anxiety is heightened not only by the severity of the virus, but also by memories of the COVID-19 pandemic. Social media platforms have been filled with speculation about whether the country is standing on the edge of another nationwide health emergency. Although health officials stress that it is too early to determine whether the superflu could escalate to pandemic status, they acknowledge similarities to the early conditions of 2020, fast transmission, school disruptions, and overwhelmed medical facilities. The political implications of another widespread outbreak are already being hotly debated. The question of whether Americans would accept or resist another shutdown looms large. During COVID-19, mask mandates, school closures, and business restrictions created deep partisan divides that still persist. Public health officials fear that any attempt to reintroduce mandates could reignite Okay, so, hang on a second. Okay, public health officials fear that any attempt to reintroduce mandates could reignite those divisions at a time when cooperation may be critical. Economists warn that severe flu outbreak could also destabilize an economy still recovering from near hyperinflation and struggling supply chains. Workforce absenteeism, school closures forcing parents to stay home, and renewed pressure on the healthcare systems could once again strain productivity. So far, federal agencies have urged calm while emphasizing vigilance. Health experts advise vaccination, of course, avoiding large gatherings when sick, and use of masks for those who want additional protection. Many Americans remember the early shortages and confusion of the COVID-19 pandemic, are taking their own precautions. Pharmacy chains have reported an uptick in mask and sanitizer sales in the past week, and several workplaces have quietly reintroduced remote work flexibility. Whether the superflu becomes a long-term crisis or a severe but short-term seasonal spike remains unclear. For now, officials are focused on containment, treatment, and public awareness. But the return of school closures, mask wearing, and hospital restrictions indicates how quickly the nation can revert to the familiar patterns when faced with a potentially dangerous virus. Well, you know what? Isn't it funny that somebody stated before Trump was elected that there might be another virus? I'm just thinking about that. Isn't it funny that when Trump's in office, all of a sudden there's viruses? Hey, it's just my opinion. Wow. So, winter storm warning is 15 inches of snow to strike. Winter warnings continue to batter multiple states across America, with up to 15 inches of snow and strong winds expected to hit certain areas from Thursday, prompting a National Weather Service to urge motorists to drive with extreme caution. The states likely to be impacted the most include New York, Ohio, Kentucky, Montana, Indiana, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Alaska. In New York and Ohio, the NWS has warned that northern Oneida County could get up to 14 inches of snow and 35-mile-per-hour winds from Thursday morning until Thursday afternoon, causing blowing snow and hazardous conditions, which is likely to affect commutes. Southern Erie County is forecast to get between 3 and 8 inches of snow, with winds gusting as high as 30 miles per hour from Thursday through to Friday morning, with the heaviest snowfall expected overnight on Thursday. Wyoming and Allegheny counties could get up to 7 inches of snow, coupled with 35-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and southern Herkimer County could see up to 6 inches with 40-mile-per-hour winds until Friday morning. Crawford County in Ohio could see up to 5 inches with 30-mile-per-hour winds until Friday morning. In Kentucky, parts of central, northeast, north central, and southeast Kentucky, including Knott and Perry counties, could get between 2 and 5 inches of snow from Thursday until Friday morning. Harlan County might see up to 4 inches of accumulated snow in areas above 2,000 feet, especially around Big Black Mountain from Thursday until Friday. In Montana, central and southern Phillips, central and southern Valley, Macomb, and northern Phillips County, especially on and around Highway 2, U.S. Highway 2, in Montana, are expected to get up to 8 inches of snow overnight Wednesday through Thursday, Friday, and into Saturday. Dawson, Guardville, Petroleum, Prairie, and southwest Phillips counties could get between 4 and 11 inches of snow from Thursday night until Saturday morning, and parts of Cascade County could get up to 12 inches with 35-mile-per-hour winds until Friday night. The southern Rocky Mountain Front and East Glacier Park region could get up to 15 inches of snow and winds between 40 miles per hour and 50 miles per hour until Friday night. And the Snowy and Judith Mountains and areas in Fergus County below 4,500 feet could get between 5 and 12 inches of snow until Friday night. In Indiana, between 2 and 4 inches of snow is forecast to fall on parts of central, south central, southeast, southwest, and west central Indiana from Thursday afternoon until Friday morning. In Illinois, parts of central, east central, southeast, and west central Illinois might see up to 5 inches of snow from Thursday afternoon until early Friday morning. In Pennsylvania, Cameron, Elk, and Potter counties could get between 1 and 5 inches of snow with winds as high as 45 miles an hour from Thursday until Friday morning. In Alaska, several parts of Alaska, including the Eastern Alaska Range, north of Trim's Camp, Eastern Alaska Range, south of Trim's Camp, and northeastern and southern Denali boroughs, could get up to 6 inches of snow with winds as high as 50 miles per hour, reducing visibility to half a mile or less until Saturday. The south slopes of the western Brooks Range, Nayatak Valley, Kivalina, and Red Dog Dock, lower Kobuk Valleys, the Baldwin Peninsula, the northern Seward Peninsula, upper Kobuk Valleys, Smishmarif, Bering Strait Coast, southern Seward Peninsula Coast, interior Seward Peninsula, eastern Norton Sound, and the Nulatu Hills could see similar conditions until Friday evening. The central Arctic Plains, the central Brooks Range, and the Ramanazov Mountains could see up to 8 inches of snow and 50-mile-per-hour winds until early Saturday morning. The NWS for Cleveland said, if you must travel in the warned areas, drive with extreme caution. Consider taking a winter storm kit along with you, including such items as tire chains, booster cables, flashlight, shovel, blankets, and extra clothing. Also take water, a first aid kit, and anything else that would help you survive in case you become stranded. And I would say to make sure that you have food to last you for at least a week. Dry food, nothing that is perishable. The NWS for Montana said those in the backcountry should ensure they are prepared for dangerous conditions. Residents in affected areas should monitor local forecasts for updates and call 511 for latest road conditions if you must travel. One second, you guys, before I continue news, I am going to take a break for just a second, drink something so that my throat doesn't get scratchy. "15 inches is a lot of snow. I keep wishing we get a little bit of snow here in North Carolina, but yeah, we haven't gotten any snow yet. Maybe the 24th. Okay, so the erupting sun may have launched a cannibal CME towards Earth. so you guys know, the sun is shifted into a more explosive mood, hurtling multiple bursts of energy and plasma into space that now appears to be converging on Earth. Forecasters are watching closely as one particularly fast eruption races to overtake earlier ones, a setup that can produce a so-called cannibal coronal mass ejection with the power to supercharge a geomagnetic storm. Instead of a single tidy impact, Earth may be facing a staked sequence of solar hits that merge into a larger one, more complex disturbances in our magnetic field. That kind of event can light up the sky with auroras at unusually low latitudes, while also testing the resilience of satellites, power grids, and radio systems that quietly underpin daily life. Solar activity has been building in the recent days, with several active regions on the sun firing off significant flares and associated eruptions. One of the headline events was a powerful X 1.1 flare from the sunspot region AR 4298 that peaked at 4:49 UTC, a level of energy that typically signals a serious disturbance in the solar atmosphere and often coincides with substantial coronal mass ejections, or CME, racing outward into space. At nearly the same time, another large region, AR 4299, produced an M8.1 flare that launched what observers simply call the CME, a dense cloud of magnetized plasma that appears to be aimed squarely at Earth. Enthusiasts tracking coronagraph imagery have suggested this eruption is pretty good and could be strong enough to drive a geomagnetic disturbance in the G4 range if conditions line up, underscoring how quickly the sun's surface has shifted from relative calm to a barrage of Earth-directed blasts. When solar eruptions come in rapid succession, the faster ones can catch up with slower predecessors, sweeping them up into a single larger structure. Earlier research into these events has shown that when the second CME catches up to the first, it can engulf the earlier cloud, creating a single massive wave of plasma that barrels through the inner solar system. Space physicists have taken to calling these merged structures cannibal CMEs because of the later eruption effectively devours the one in front of it. The cannibal behavior matters because the merged CME often carries a stronger, more tangled magnetic field and can travel at higher speeds than either the components above alone. Past events have shown that such combined eruptions can slam into Earth's magnetosphere at nearly 2 million miles per hour, as described in earlier analysis of a cannibal coronal mass ejection from the sun that was tracked racing towards our planet. When that kind of combined shock front arrives, it can compress Earth's magnetic field more abruptly and drive a stronger geomagnetic storm that forecasters would expect from any single eruption. What makes the current setup so intriguing is not just one eruption, but a parent train of CMEs that have been launched in close succession. Space weather watchers have flagged that there are at least 4 distinct CMEs with some potential to intersect Earth's orbit, with one of them tied to an M8.1 flare from AR 4299, singled out as the most promising candidate for a direct hit. As one observer put it, here is the most promising of the CMEs headed for us now, launched from a region that was squarely in the Earth's strike zone when it erupted. That geometry matters because CMEs that erupt from near the center of the solar disk, as seen from Earth, are more likely to be halo events that envelop our planet rather than glancing blows that skim past. The combination of a strong X 1.1 flare from AR 4298 and the M8.1 event from AR 4299 both occurred while those regions are well placed, raising the odds that at least one of the resulting CMEs will connect solidly with Earth's magnetic field. If the faster eruptions from AR 4299 catch up to an earlier, slower cloud on the way, the stage is set for a merged cannibal-like structure to arrive instead of a series of neatly separated impacts. Behind the scenes, the first sign that the sun has shifted into a more volatile phase often shows up in the technical bulletins issued by space weather agencies. One such alert, labeled with the space weather message code ALTXMF, carries a serial number 505 and notes that the X-ray flux has exceeded the M5 threshold, a clear marker that the sun has produced a major flare. The issue time is recorded in the early December in UTC, and the alert is part of a stream of operational messages cataloged in the alerts, watches, and warnings that forecasters rely on to track evolving solar conditions. These technical codes may sound arcane, but they are the backbone of how grid operators, satellite controllers, and aviation planners get early notice that something significant is brewing on the sun. The same system feeds into public-facing forecasts and dashboards maintained by the Space Weather Prediction Center, where users can see at a glance whether solar radiation, geomagnetic activity, or radio blackouts are trending towards levels that warrant concern. When those alerts start stacking up around strong flares and Earth-directed CMEs, it is a signal that the risk of a notable geomagnetic storm is rising. So what can a severe geomagnetic storm do? When a CME slams into Earth's magnetic field, the resulting geomagnetic storm can have a cascading effect across modern infrastructure. The official scales used by forecasters spell out that satellite operations may experience memory device problems and noise on imaging systems, and that star tracker issues can cause orientation errors that operators must correct. A higher storm level, repeated impacts over several days are likely, and the same guidance warnings that radiation hazard avoidance is recommended for certain flights. With navigation position errors and degraded high-frequency radio in the polar regions also on the list of concerns. On the ground, strong geomagnetic storms can induce currents in long conductors such as power lines and pipelines, stressing transformers and control systems in a way that utilities must manage carefully. While the current warnings emphasize that expected impacts should be within the range of what operators can handle with proper preparation, history shows that poorly managed events can lead to voltage instability and even regional blackouts. For everyday users, the more visible effects may be intermittent GPS glitches, patchy shortwave radio, and for those lucky enough to be under clear skies, auroras that spill far beyond their usual polar haunts. Now, one of the things they don't mention is how it affects people. I do know that people can end up having body pains and memory issues, and it can affect your moods, and it can affect you with headaches and body aches and cramps and upset stomach. I think that also when you have to look at the sun to see that we've had bigger earthquakes when we've had these flares. Okay, you guys, so that's the news that I have for you today. Please share this live stream out to other people that might need to get updates for the weather that is going on and the rainstorm that is going on in Washington State. Thank you, George Mitchell, for being here today. Thank you, Rich Quake, for being here today. Thank you, the Fuzzy Falcon, for being here today. Thank you for everybody who has watched, tuned in, shared the live stream. If you like my channel, please give it a like. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you would like to help out with my car fund and my granddaughter's Christmas, I do have a PayPal, and also I do have a Cash App. I will post that below the video after the live stream. All right, you guys, Please remember to tell someone you love them. Tomorrow's never promised. Make each day an adventure. And on Saturday or Sunday, we'll be doing another live stream. On Saturday or Sunday, we will have another live stream. It'll probably be a fun stream. Usually, I'm starting to do panels with people, so people can come up on the stream and talk and interact. Anyways, you guys, I love you. Please tell somebody else that you love them. And have a great day wherever you are in the world. As we all know, today is Thursday. I may do something live tomorrow. That depends on what happens tomorrow. Anyways, you guys, I love you, and I will see you all on the next live stream or next video.